Hello, everyone. This is Vincent Pacillo, host of the msuwma podcast. We have another amazing episode planned for you today. We recently hosted Brennan Schlagbaum. Brennan is a certified public accountant, and he is the owner of the account Budgetdog, which you've probably seen on Instagram and Twitter. Brennan helps everyday people achieve their financial goals by providing a numerous amount of resources to achieve those goals. And in today's episode, we talked about that, and we also talked about his personal financial journey, the power of a budget, and so much more. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to the msuwma podcast. I am here with Brennan Budgetdog. Brennan, how's it going?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. I'm super excited to make this happen. So,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, I just want to kind of get started and tell us a little bit about your journey to financial freedom and how you have helped people achieve the same outcome.
Sure. So, I think I want to start with this. I think any business out there, the best businesses out there, have solved a problem, and that's exactly what I've done. So, I, at 23 years old, was in a lot of debt. I just graduated college. I was just getting married, bought cars, bought the ring. All of those things just started piling up. And so I had $304,000 of debt at 23 years old. And everybody said I was doing great, but I didn't feel the same thing. I felt as if we were doing horrible, actually. So when I looked at that balance sheet and I saw 304,000, I made sure that we created a plan right then and right there. And it was like, I remember specifically us pacing around the living room, like, we need to get this done, like, ASAP, like, this is a problem. And so we did that, and we did it for a 5-year plan, and we knocked everything out, including our mortgage, which was absolutely crazy before 30 years old, before our first kid, about a month before. And we were in a really good position. So kind of 2 years back before that all happened, before we solved that solution that we had the problem to, we knew obviously how to do this, right? We paid off $76,000 of debt in the first year that was non-mortgage debt. We were on a good trajectory, and I knew it could help other people because I was doing it locally. Mm-hmm. And I was able to bring that to Instagram because I was trying to figure ways to reach more people. And obviously social media was that route. And it just kind of picked up because you talk to people on Instagram, social media, you start posting about finance, and people realize there's a lot of issues out there with debt. Especially in today's world. 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck, and that stat's only rising, and it's getting worse with the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. So we realized there was a solution. That's where Budgetdog came into play. When I first brought it in, it was actually from my dog's point of view, hence the name Budgetdog.
Yes.
If some people have been following me since the beginning, and they remember my logo being a dog, literally. I brought the personal aspect in it and kind of rebranded since, but we kept the name because it was catchy. So people liked it and everything. And that's where we're at today. So it's a growing business. We're doing really well right now. What's really cool is I'm about to sign my biggest first contract. That's
good
like
for you.
40% of my starting 9-to-5 salary, which is absolutely crazy to me.
Wow.
Where this has come, from the beginning to now, just 2 years later.
Yeah, no, that's super awesome. And tell us a little bit about your business. Like, what do you do? What are the services you offer? Like, what's Money University? What is Journey to Financial Freedom? All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I offer various assortment of personal finance products and resources. And services. So one-on-one consultations with me. We have products and we have resources, and I'm going to have a coaching program coming soon, which is kind of a scaled out version of what I currently do. In Money University, Budget Financial Freedom, my courses, some products, like I said, but really within all of those, they're guided to give you the resources and tools and the education that I learned along the way or used along the way. So they're actually practical resources. And I think that's the difference of it's not a theoretical book that's like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, you read one of the fancy Common Sense of Mutual Funds book or something like by Jack Bogle, and you're like, that's just kind of theoretical. I'm providing the actual like step-by-step tutorial of how to do this stuff. Budget Financial Freedom, for example, my course, like, it's exactly the tools that I use to create my financial plan to get out of $304,000 of debt and also invest a ton. So a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's only for people in debt. Nope. A budget's for anybody at any point in time. We still use those tools today We just don't have an amortization schedule because we don't have any debt, but we
Right.
still use a balance sheet. We still use a budget. Those are all still fundamental tools forever. And that's really what my resources and products and services come down to.
Nice. So I think one of the coolest things is when I heard that you were doing Money University, I was so hyped up for that because I feel like that's the biggest thing that schools are missing now is teaching kids
Yes.
how to do personal finance. And then the conversation with your kids. Like I was really blessed to have a dad who like actually like talked to me about money and stuff like that, which is how I got into it at a very young age. But that's a hard conversation when your kids aren't really learning about it. Like I saw a tweet from Dave Ramsey yesterday that said you can teach your kids about taxes by taking 25% of their candy away. But just little things like that. But having that conversation, teaching the kids early, I feel like is a great way to start that conversation.
Yeah, it's huge, I think, because that's why we kind of brought that to the forefront and made this a course, because we talk about this all the time. Like schools don't teach us, but nobody has a solution. We just like are these shouting heads of like schools don't teach us, blah, 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 blame the other person. And so like what we were trying to accomplish with this is just like, let's just solve the problem and go to your house. Like we don't need the schools. That's just it's like the middleman. We can cut out the middleman like crypto, right?
Yeah. That's so fair.
House. That's really what we're trying to do. And so that's what we've done. And it's been very successful. But yeah, it's aimed for people 12 to 25.
Okay.
But it's not limited. So, Leandra, who's one of the creators of the course as well, she has an immigrant mother. So it made a lot of sense for her to take the course, although she's, much older than 25 years old.
Right.
It still helps, the basics, the foundational principles of finance.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's awesome. And what separates your one-on-one consultations for personal finance? Like, how do you kind of make that your personal touch?
Yeah, I think it's the how I go in with the personal side of things. So I think a lot of financial people will look at the numbers and they'll kind of say, okay, this equals that. So therefore this is the outcome, and just go on with your way and, good luck.
Yeah. Right.
I think I take a step back and I understand the human, and I ask the questions of that human and understand their goals, their motivations, their fears, all that kind of stuff. So I can guide them with the numbers, which are important,
right,
and mix a craft a plan that's going to work for them, that's sustainable, because sustainability is the biggest thing. I read a stat the other day, only 8% of people that start a goal actually finish that goal. And it's because of sustainability is really hard to do. Like you might be all hyped and motivated that first day, but after that first week, first month, things start to get back to normal, right? And you start to not have that motivation, initial hype up. And so how do you stay with the goal, with the plan? And that's going to take, different elements like a community, for example, which is why I'm scaling my coaching to basically make it a community. Things like that are what separates people. And also what separates my one-on-one coaching is that personal touch of it.
That's super cool. So what was one of the biggest things that you've learned about finance, and like, what was that key to doing that?
Yeah, the biggest thing about finance, I think, was like, so when I read the Psychology of Money book, that was one of my favorite books of all time. It's really because I love the behavioral aspect of things, because I'm really interested in human nature. Like that's just something's always fascinated me, right? Like, why do people do what they do? And so you have all these money nerds out there talking about these numbers, but they always forget the human. Like they're in the spreadsheet so much that they never get out of the spreadsheet, and they never see the human behind it that's using that. And that's what's more important. It's going to drive a lot more decisions. It's not just a number. Like, and so I think that's the most surprising thing. Not really surprising, but the most influential and impactful thing that I've learned, and how to incorporate that in my content, in my numbers is really important as well.
Awesome. So what do you think is something that's really plaguing or bringing down people's financial success? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you kind of dig deeper into that?
Yeah, it's definitely the behavior side of things.
Interesting.
So
wow.
It's definitely, no doubt. So everyone knows to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows to save money. Everyone knows to do X, Y, and Z, eat healthy, right? Why does nobody do it? It's because of different contributing factors, right? And there's various factors as to why people don't do it. But that's why I'm understanding the human biases that come into play. The lack of motivation in different areas. Like you have to feel passionate about different areas, or you're not going to succeed. You have to have a detailed written plan, or you're not going to succeed. It's like me personally. So I'm very into fitness as well. And I used to do macros. And when I track the macros on a paper, I would do them. Now I don't do them because I don't track them. And I know I'm guilty of that. but I'm sitting here talking to you knowing I'm guilty of that. And
Yeah.
and I know why. And so if I do that and I incorporate that back into the world of my life, like I would start to do it and I would be successful with it. And so if you don't have a plan, you don't track and stuff like that, you're going to lose motivation quick. If you don't know your why, you don't know why you're doing it. That's also big. If you're just blindly doing stuff, it's like, I always talk about in my content, why I'm doing what I'm doing. I always like to make a point of that. So yesterday I bought Facebook, or last week I bought Facebook stock, but I posted yesterday about it and I explained my why, but I had people saying, oh, I'm going to buy Facebook stock. It's like, because you said it, but it's like, did you think about this or the why behind why I did it? I explained my reasoning in great detail, but if you don't understand why you're going to do it and that stock drops, you're going to sell and you're going to buy high and sell low. And that's the worst thing you can possibly do.
Right. Exactly. So is that kind of the one thing you see with the people who you consult with, is like they change their behavior and that's how they change their future?
All the time. It's awesome. Initially the mindset. And I know that sounds corny a lot of times, but if you're trying to accomplish a goal and you're like, okay, I'm going to push it off till Monday or next week or whatever, you're not going to do that goal because you're not going to feel any different then.
Yeah.
If you feel different right away, it's because you really want to change. And that's when I see the most success. When I send a plan, so I'll send my financial plan to somebody and then I'll meet with them maybe like that next Thursday or whatever. Yeah. If I meet with them and they're like, hey, I've already finished steps 1 through 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
I know instantly I've met somebody that's going to do something big, like instantly. Yeah. If somebody's like, I don't know, I haven't really read the plan. I'm like, all right, we need to talk about this. Let's start talking about this and get your feet wet here, because if you keep pushing this off, it's not going to work. For sure. And I can tell the difference really fast.
For sure. And kind of going back a little bit, backtracking, can you tell us a little bit about like so you are a CPA. How does that play into helping others with their personal finances?
Yeah, so I think I have a lot of experience with people with the profession that I came from. So I was an auditor. So think of a consultant, not a policeman. And as a consultant, essentially, you have to work with a client. And so my strength at Deloitte was client relationships. And so building that relationship, that bond between the client and said policeman is a hard thing to do. It's hard to break that barrier because they look at you as a policeman. So learning those skills, those people skills, helped me the most. Then on the technical side of things, I think balance sheets, understanding the financials behind companies and how they relate to the individual. So let's say statement of equity, balance sheet, income statement, cash flow, like understanding how those on a professional level translate to a personal are so important too. So you have the numbers and the people and you mix them together like my whole brand is built on, and boom, you have a very good solution.
Awesome. And do you think personally that people who graduate with a CPA or a degree in accounting, that they only think that they can do public accounting and that wealth management is just off the table? Or what do you think about that?
Not really. Because you know what, I actually went for my CPA and I didn't really want to do accounting long-term, to be honest.
Gotcha.
But I knew that the audit practice at Deloitte was going to open the doors up for finance. And my next move was probably going to be wealth management. Now I could have gone a better route and done CFP or CFA, but at the time I didn't know I wanted to specifically do that. Now, obviously it doesn't matter at this point because I'm doing what I'm doing now, and that doesn't require that. But I think you can definitely, you should not be limited to in what you're doing. The CPA is very valuable. And if you work Big Four specifically, you have a bigger in to a lot of different companies just because of that solely.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, so let's kind of dig into the budget thing, because that's in your name, and this is something that I really want to dig through. So how do you budget, and how do you tell or teach people to budget and to stick with it despite regular income or overspending, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So I have my budget financial freedom course that really walks you through the very granular steps of the technical side of things. But when I'm looking at holistically and I'm just saying, hey, how do you budget? I guess the question was, I'm going to say this is, I think a budget is just a spending plan. I think it's a spending plan to allow your life to be what you want it to be. And so I think a lot of people look at a budget as restrictive or like boring and mundane, but it's like, dude, this has helped me do a lot of things and I'm very passionate about it. And it doesn't take me much time at all. I think it takes me 30 minutes a month, maybe, to actually do the budget. We have one meeting per month. We kind of decide on everything going through. I document it, we're done. And then we obviously record. So it really doesn't take much, but I think you need to build in the life that you want to live. But at the same time, if you're trying to pay off debt, if you're trying to do some big goals, you might need to sacrifice. But if you lay those things out on paper, you'll see the time frame of all that kind of stuff, and you can plug and play numbers to change those time frames. And it comes down to what you want to do. Are you willing to not go on vacation for a year? If that's part of your plan, that's fine, but realize that money could be better used to pay off debt. And if you put it in a vacation, you're just going to take longer to pay off the debt. There's no problem with it. There's nothing wrong with it, but you have to understand that time frame and how that's affected.
Right. No, absolutely. And what do you think is something that a lot of people overlook when they're investing or budgeting?
I think they make it too complicated, to be honest. I think they think this is like some like grand thing, and I think it deters a lot of people from even starting. And I think the biggest thing is like my investment philosophy, my budgeting philosophy, everything is so practical and so easy for like anybody to do. I mean, it's primarily low cost index funds, and it's a simple budget. Like that's all it is. It's not like that complicated. You have people saying like, I just don't know where to start. It's like, here's my course. Here's like my philosophy. I talk on IG Lives all the time about how to do this. I have a free budget template in my link in my bio. Like, you guys could start this today and get started. Like, it's not that hard. It's a matter of wanting to start. And so like that hard work initially is deterring a lot of people because they're like, I don't know where to start. That mind power of like having to think through all this stuff initially might be one of those buffers. And I think that deters a lot of people.
Interesting. And you talk a lot too about hidden investment fees. So can you get into that a little bit more too?
Yes. So when you were looking at an investment, a lot of people were like, oh, this investment returned X percentage. First off, that's the novice way of looking at things because, I mean, we're talking different inception periods. We're talking different, economic cycles and stuff like that. So if you're looking at a specific percentage return, you're looking at it's very short-sighted, and it's very like pinpointed where you can actually look at the whole picture. So if you understand the investment in total, it's more important. When it gets into fees specifically, there's a long list. I mean, I could go on and on about potential fees that you need to be aware of. The biggest one that you should be aware of is probably expense ratio, as well as financial advising fees. Those two fees are likely the two biggest of the 10 I list in my book. And those fees could really eat into your profits with hundreds of thousands of dollars at a 1% level. So you hear expense ratio, let's say 1%, or ARC is a really popular fund right now, but it's actively managed by Kathy Wood, and it's at 75 basis points. So 0.75. That's actually way more than people think. They're all 0.75 is nothing. If I earn 10%, that's not 9.25 net, like whatever. 0.75 is a lot. And so not only do you have to, those actively managed mutual funds have to beat the market, but they have to beat the market by that percentage plus some to make it make sense. And that's really hard to do. Even the smartest people in the world for years and years and years have tried to do this, and they continue to lose. 8% of large cap mutual funds beat the market in a 20-year period. So like 92% lost. And so what's to tell me that it's going to be any different in the future when it's happened on numerous occasions throughout time? It could, I might be way wrong, but I can tell you based on statistics and numbers, it doesn't look very favorable. It's just really hard to beat the market. And people like Warren Buffett will tell you that, even though he does beat the market. And he's a rare exception and unicorn out there. So it's just something to be aware of. And then financial advising fees, they will have you in actively managed mutual funds most times. So then you tack on an additional 1%, let's say on average 1 to 2%, and boom, they have you pigeonholed into 2% fees.
Right. Yeah. So those add up over time for sure, probably.
I'll give you a breakdown of a quick example. I'm trying to remember off the numbers from my book. So if you invest $500 a month at 7% return for 30 years, you invest about $180,000. If you have a 2% fee in total, that comes out to be about $189,000 in fees.
Dang.
And that's not that much investing like that. A lot of people will invest more than that. So therefore that number would go up and creep up.
Interesting. No, that's a really interesting perspective that a lot of people don't talk about. So that's really, really insightful. Now, who are your heroes? Who are the people who you followed that have really helped you to kind of like get your platform to where it is today?
So I like Gary Vee. That's kind of cliche though to say. So one person I really liked recently is Russell Brunson. So he is in the ClickFunnels space and how to automate your business on the back end stuff. It's ads, basically it's ads driven and stuff like that. And how to promote your business in the right way at the cheapest cost and the most effective way. So Russell Brunson's been like a guy, I listen to his podcast every time I get in the car. Nice. They're short 8 to 12 minute episodes on a specific topic. So they're not like very wordy, just really quick. And I really like that. So That's kind of where I'm at right now with Russell Brunson.
Nice. That's really, really cool. So, what is some advice that you would give to someone who's considering the field of wealth management?
Yeah, the field of wealth management, you have to understand that it's going to come in the form of people more so than the numbers. So there's different positions within the wealth management space. I mean, some people are behind the scenes creating the portfolios, and some people are selling the business, getting the clients. If you have a downturn in the market, expect to have a lot of phone calls. Expect to be able to talk people from walking off the ledge. That's a big thing. I have a call later today at 1 o'clock with a financial advisor, not mine, obviously, I don't have one, but a friend that's a financial advisor. And we were just talking through some things, but I talk to him a lot, and he says, if the market does anything, if it burps a little bit, like my phones are off the chain. And
Wow.
you have to realize people freak out during these times. And that's why they need financial advisors. That there's times where it makes sense because they have a lack of education and they freak out, and therefore they sell out of fear because they just don't know. That could make sense to have a financial advisor. Even if you're paying them 1%, if you're going to sell and lose 10%, like it makes sense to lose that 1% and keep the other 9. So yeah, you got to be aware of the people behind the numbers. Like you have a big asset management portfolio, and you have a bunch of AUM coming to you, assets under management fee. But with that comes a lot of people, and you have to realize there's people behind those numbers, and you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, for sure. And what is just some general advice that you would have for just college students, who are freshmen through senior, who are some of them who are about to start their career? What would you say?
Okay, so I had a post the other day about what I would do if I was 18 or if I was 18 again. And one of those was starting a Roth IRA. So that's a really big one. I wish I would have done that. And that's kind of a more technical side of things, but more so what I would do is think about what your next goal is. Like when I was in college, I was just kind of mindlessly hanging out. Like if I'm being honest, I wasn't preparing myself. Like, yes, I got a job at Deloitte right out of school. I did well. I ended up doing fine, but like I wasn't really thinking past the moment I was in.
Yeah.
And so thinking where you're going and what the purpose of college is, college is a bridge to where you're trying to get to. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Some kids look at it like some like party time, and it's like, that's not the best way to look at it, to be honest, because you're paying a ton of money to get to where you're trying to go. And if it doesn't get you to where you're trying to go, why are you going on that bridge to get there? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So understanding and thinking through that, and also understanding you're not going to know everything. You're not going to just have some big grand solution. That's very hard to do, but begin to apply yourself at least to start thinking that way.
Yeah. And you posted something the other day about how college isn't the only path that you can take. Like there's so many other different paths you can take that could be even better for your success, because society says you need to go to college, you need to get a full-time job.
If I'm being honest, I really don't. I think college is definitely a great tool still in today's world, but I do think it's gaining less and less value. I think people are seeing the cost rise.
Yeah.
There's people doing what I'm doing that don't have college technically. Some could argue college has helped me get to where I'm at, but some might not. And there's other paths to go. I mean, trade schools obviously are just one of the other huge avenues to take. But even all this entrepreneurial stuff, there's just so much opportunity out there with the new online game.
Yeah, there totally is. There totally is. Brennan, thank you so much for being on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
For sure.
If you like what you just heard, please like, comment, and share. This is Lance Mullen, producer of the MSU WMA podcast. MSU WMA, or Michigan State University Wealth Management Association, is a student organization part of the Eli Broad College of Business, located in East Lansing, Michigan. Our mission is to inspire and educate the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and check out our social media at MSUWMA and MSUWMA.com.